All right, I think that's good. Um, just start out with the introduction. My name is Torsten Smith. I am the Lake County OWTS Environmental Health Specialist. I have been the one spearheading our regulation adoption here for the last few months. The reason we're going through this adoption process now is because last year, June 15th, the state of Colorado's CDPHE has adopted new Regulation 43 updates. They have given local counties 1 year from that day to become compliant and adopt new updated regulations at the local level. We're just going to start off here actually with a overview of the webpage. There is a whole host of information on here along with the changes to Regulation 43, the red line for Regulation 43, and significant changes. There's other useful information on here too, a public comment form. If you don't get a chance to speak up today, go ahead and leave me a comment there. Like I said, we got some information about the Regulation 43 updates and major changes. I'm going to skip over those a little bit today. I'm mostly going to go through the significant changes portion of that. And then we also have the local updated regulations along with the optional choices appendix and the red line version as well. For the major significant changes in Regulation 43, these are the ones that I thought affected us at the local level the most. Section 43.4F1 is now requiring residual head squirt tests to be included in engineer certification documents. Basically, I think most engineers have been doing that before in their observation letters and their inspection, pre-backfill inspection. Now it's just required to have that to get the permit finalized and move forward with it. What do we have next? Table 10-1A has been pretty much entirely revamped and updated in Regulation 43. They've gotten two new terms on there, the fractured bedrock and deteriorated bedrock. This just further goes into the different long-term acceptance rates and what kind of treatment systems you can have for the more specialized type of rocky soils. Instead of it just being R1, R2, R3, they now have the further differentiation between the fractured bedrock and deteriorated bedrock. Section 43.10F3A, serial distribution systems are now prohibited for use in new construction. Serial distribution systems, instead of the effluent going into a distribution box, it will go straight into the first chamber and then sequentially go through all the chambers. Not prohibited for existing systems, not going to have to take them out, just can't do them for new systems moving forward. Section 43.10H1A1 removes primary and secondary stand descriptions. Now it's just all referred to as imported treatment stand. 43.11C2D4 also has to do with our sand medium. The state is now requiring that graduations of the sand media used need to be provided to the local public health agencies. This is coming in the form of the engineer reports prior to getting the permitting done. Really not that big of a changes, just some changes to how engineer reports are being done and how the inspections prior to backfill is getting done. And really, I think the last major significant change that would affect us more at the local level is section 43.9D1D2, which just now requires that Schedule 40 PVC must be used within 5 feet of all tanks. Not quite certain what it was before. I think it's pretty common to use Schedule 40 PVC there anyways. Now that's just required at the state level. And again, on that website, there's the full list of significant changes to Regulation 43. These are just the ones that I thought would be more applicable to us at the local level here. Um, really, is there any questions or comments about the couple minor changes to Regulation 43 that are affecting us? And just go ahead and put your hand up on the Zoom call if you do have a comment. Yeah, Jason, go ahead. Are you trying to figure out the audio there? If you do have something to say and not able to get the voice to work, go ahead and type it into the chat and I'll get to it in a little bit here. We'll have more time to have questions and comments. So I guess I should actually be. Then we'll just kind of move on to the significant changes in the local regulations here. Really, through this part of our adoption process, we're trying to do pretty minor changes to the local regulations, really just to get in compliance with the state requirements. We are in a moratorium right now that we will be further discussing any other issues, especially regarding um, rural rural alternative methods and for commercial event facilities. Um, One of the major parts of that has been vault privies. Vault privies are something that's been getting used a little bit more recently. And as of right now, with the current regulations, we require a variance process through the Board of Health for that. So we're doing some research and looking into the possibility of allowing some uses for vault privy systems, mostly, like I said, for rural, residential, or commercial event facilities. As far as the major changes to the required regulations, a lot of it's just verbiage changes between what Regulation 43 has and what we've had in the past, changing the authority, having agency from the local public health agency, Lake County Public Health, to Lake County Community Planning and Development. Since the last adoption in 2017, the position of OWTS has moved from environmental health to CPD. So just change the wording in there so that CPD and myself still have authority over this. And really, the major parts that actually have been edited or moved have been part of section 1.13, which is about our short-term rental licensing. When that was amended, I believe in 2024, when we added that to our regulations, we had a lot of grace periods and exceptions to what's required in short-term rental licensing. Really, the big ones is that any short-term rental needs to have a valid inspection done every 3 years. You can't have a short-term rental license without having a inspection within the last 3 years. We had an exception for that. If you had a license prior to 2024, you didn't have to have an inspection within 3 years at that point, as long as the system was in working order. So now it's always every 3 years. If you don't have that inspection within 3 years, you can't get a license. And the other major section that got removed off of there was the exception regarding seepage pit usage. Seepage pits are not allowed to be used on commercial short-term rental properties like this. Prior to, I believe, 2026 was the cutoff year. Prior to January 1st of this year, you were allowed to have a seepage pit if you had a existing license already. Now, even with an existing license, you have to replace that seepage pit with a more modern soil treatment area. And that's moving forward. That's why that exception got taken out, because it doesn't apply anymore. We've passed that grace period. Let's pull that up too. And again, all this is on the website too. So if you want to dive deeper into it, you can take a look at it. But I'm just going to scroll down to those removed sections from 1.13 here. And again, just the grace period of when inspections were required and seepage pit pretty much on there. Next part. There was just a couple opt-in choices that we were required to change this year or make a choice on. With that, you'll see on the appendix on that website there that most everything did stay the same. We're trying, like I said, to keep it pretty limited changes to what's going on right now until we have some more time to discuss with the community and do some research on how to implement possible changes in the future through the moratorium. But with our appendix, these opt-in choices, these are just a couple ones that I highlighted that either changed or are new. 43.7D1 is allowing local agencies to determine for certain property line deductions. Previously, that was a variance as well. That was a decision that was needed to be made by the Board of Health. Now they give us the option to give the Board of Health option to allow the local public health agency, CPD, to determine certain property line reductions without the variance. So just an example of this is if you have a property that can only fit the soil treatment area on one corner of the property, and it's going to be within the setback of the property line on the front. That would now be up to our decision whether we would allow that or if we want to go to a variance with that. And really, the way I'm gonna intend on doing this moving forward is that if there's no other parties, no other variables involved, and it's just a foot or two reduction of the setback of a road or whatever, then I think would be able to make those decisions ourselves. But if there's any other parties involved and it's too close to another property owner's property line, we're still going to bring that to the Board of Health, just so that it's fair and everyone has their chance to be heard about that. 43.12E2 allows the local public health agencies to make a determination on whether we can reduce the size of a soil treatment area based on alternative waste methods. This is composting toilets, incinerating toilets, chemical toilets. We've chosen not to allow for reduction on that. That's the standard that it has been in the past. Mostly just because the use of composting toilets, incinerating toilets isn't very common, and really you're still having a normal amount of waste flow going through a system if it was for like a residential property. 43.4K licensing of contractors. Lake County previously has already required that system installers are licensed and that transfer of title inspectors are licensed. In the past, Lake County grouped cleaners and inspectors all together. We're still doing that, but we may consider changing the separating the inspector from the cleaner part of that. So having a different requirement for cleaners and different requirement for inspectors. As of right now, we haven't changed that, and cleaners and inspectors are licensed under the same license. And like I said, a lot of the other options have not changed from the previous appendix on there. You can find that on the website again. Just show that for you real quick. And that's Appendix A with optional choices here. Like I said, licensing, so system cleaners and contractors are required to be licensed and have been required to be licensed. Variance procedure hasn't changed, or occupancy for residential hasn't changed. The local public health agency may determine property setback reductions and allow for the reduction in the size where incinerating composting toilet is installed. Again, haven't done that in the past, not changing that right now. And again, you feel free to take a look through any of these documents, ask any questions on anything I'm not covering. I'm just trying to do an overview of what we've done so far and what's changing. So the rural lodging and events facilities moratorium is going to be kind of a phase 2 of our regulation adoption process here. This first phase, like I've said, is really just to be in compliant with the required changes of CDPHE's regulation 43. So just trying to get in compliant, do minor changes on there, and not really trying to shake the tree too much with that. But through the moratorium work here, we're definitely going to take a deeper look into different alternative waste management systems, the vault privy systems, composting chemical toilets, really on a bunch of different property types. In doing this moratorium, we definitely want to have more input from the community, from our experts in the field to see what's wanted, what's needed out of this. It's really, this moratorium was set up to give us more time to plan it out and figure out what kind of oversight we would need for new programs, and really what other jurisdictions allow and how they oversee these kind of programs. Definitely encourage anyone who's has thoughts on these alternative methods to contact myself or anyone at CPD to discuss what we could do with this moving forward. And we'll definitely have some more public comment periods, some more open houses about this moving forward. But just thought I'd give that kind of a quick shout out that even though we're not changing a lot right now, we do intend to take a deeper look as we move forward. And with that, I'm going to open it back up. I'm going to see if anyone had questions here in the chat. At this point too, if you do have something, either use the raise hand function on here or go ahead and speak up. I don't think there's too many in the meeting right now. Not seeing any raised hands or questions. There we go. Oh, that's me. Um, there we go. Jason has a question he's typing up for us here, so I'll wait for that to come through and try to answer it for you.
There any changes going to be made with the county regarding, the investigative profile holes, test pits, in terms of when those need to be backfilled and all that?
No changes locally at least. And I don't think Reg 43 has changed that too much either. We, in the past, haven't been requiring those soil profile holes to stay open for inspection by the county. We've really been relying on the engineers to give us that. We do require having those soil profiles in the engineer designs just to give us an idea of what was seen there. But as far as keeping them open for county to inspect them, no, we don't require that.
Thank you. And could you clarify with the sand gradation documentation? You said you wanted that with the final engineering report.
Not the final report. This is the engineer design that will happen prior to installation of the system. So we just want to have that with the engineer designs and to know where the sand's coming from, what the analysis of it is. But yeah, that's prior to getting permitting, prior to having the system installed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your question, Jason. Let's see what she said here. I'll read this question here. From Jason again, just a quick response on the squirt height test. We have not been doing that in our current inspections, so that will be a new thing with the reg changes. This will be pretty major, specifically if the site does not have power. The installer will need to have power to perform a water test. And again, squirt head tests are only for pressurized systems. I wasn't aware that that wasn't happening. I assumed that engineers were doing it anyways for their inspections. And in the past, it wasn't required to be on that inspection report, the observation letter prior to backfill, but it is going to be moving forward here. So that will require having some sort of power on the property, whether it's portable power just to power the pump or waiting to get the inspection finished until there's power on the property, unfortunately. All right. Any other questions right now? Otherwise, like I said, there's that public comment forum on the website. If you do think of some questions later than this short webinar will be posted to the website as well to review, watch again if you need to. And really, I've said it a couple times, but the whole point of this adoption for us, this phase one of the adoption, is to be in compliance with the required changes. We're not trying to shake the boat too much yet. Definitely look into more what the community needs and what the public wants out of different alternative method systems. But right now we're just doing the basic changes. I don't think I see any other hands raised. Let me double check. No, yeah, I appreciate everyone for joining me today and hearing my little spiel. Again, feel free to reach out to me. My information's on the website. I'll post it right underneath the link for the webinar, just so everyone has it easy. Yeah, reach out if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns. Yeah, well, last point to the actual adoption hearing from the Board of Health is going to be on April 30th at 1 p.m. This will be public, can have a comment period there too if you have more to say, but this will be the actual decision-making process by the Board of Health. If it is approved and the Board of Health signs off on the current regulation draft, they will be effective June 15th of this year. That's kind of the timeline moving forward for this at least. The moratorium work will be happening for a few more months after that to try to determine if there's any other needs. But yeah, it looks like there's no other questions right now. Nobody's waiting to speak up. So again, I really appreciate everyone being here and showing their support for our changes here. I am open. I'm here Tuesday to Friday, 7 to 5:30. So feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email if you have any questions, concern moving forward. But otherwise, I really appreciate you being here and have a nice day.